I think while it's wonderful to plan far, far ahead, you also have to give yourself some grace to just take the next step forward and
Yeah.
not get so overwhelmed. I think I remember when I started my furniture company, laying awake at night thinking, like, what happens if it burns down? Just all these completely unrealistic
Yeah.
thoughts. And, I think at this point, I joke, I have an entrepreneur friend and we'll literally text each other back and forth, left foot, right foot. Like, you just have to,
That's
it's just
awesome.
the next step forward, especially right now with all the unknowns in the world.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I'm Courtney Cook, founder of Monarch COO, where I help mission-driven entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Each week, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to explore the stories behind their successes and challenges. Whether you're just dreaming of starting a business or already building one, this podcast is here to show you that entrepreneurship is more attainable than it might seem, with insights for every stage of the journey. Let's dive into today's conversation and see what it takes to build a business. Sofia Hudson is the founder of Swoon Cookie Crafters, a Kansas City-based bakery known for its beautifully designed custom sugar cookies. Her journey into entrepreneurship started unexpectedly in her furniture store, Hudson Home, where she served her mother-in-law's cookies. When the furniture store moved in 2007, customers kept searching for the cookies, and Sofia realized she had something special. What began as a small side project has now grown into a thriving business, baking cookies for corporate events, special occasions, and loyal customers. So, Sofia, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Will you kick us off by sharing more about Swoon and who you serve today?
We serve people celebrating all different types of events, so all the way from corporate events to birthday parties. We've had some wonderful customers that started with us when they got engaged, and then they got married, and then they got pregnant, and then they had babies and first birthdays and so on. So it's been fun to be part of people's journey.
That's awesome. When you started baking or bringing cookies into the furniture store, what even inspired you to start making cookies? Like where did that become a thing?
Well, the funny thing I should say is that I'm not a baker. It's never been something that's been part of my life. But both my mother and mother-in-law are incredible bakers. And so when I started doing the First Fridays, my mother-in-law kindly offered to bring desserts for First Fridays. So she would bring brownie bites and all sorts of things. And at some point, the sugar cookies started, and she was doing them seasonally. So, each month would be a different theme. And then people just started coming for the cookies.
So
So
were you like, I want to learn how to make these? Did she teach you how to decorate them, or how did that process go?
she did, but what happened was I think after a while when people were demanding them, she said, well, I'll make them, but you have to help me. So that was sort of my first steps into it. And having gone to art school, I had some artistic background, but definitely not in cookie decorating. So it took a long, long time of trial and error and just different things to create the designs. And then when we closed our retail stores, we decided that we would sell them, and the Kansas City Star magazine put them on the front cover of Star
Oh my
magazine
gosh.
the first week in December, and then it just
Wow.
kind of snowballed from there. So it was a total accident.
Wow. That's amazing PR right there. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so you're in the Kansas City area. Do you ship cookies, or are you just selling them locally?
We ship them all over the country. We use FedEx second day air so they can get there safely. So we can even ship in the heat of the summer and haven't had any issues, which is wonderful.
Yeah, nice. That is really great. Okay, so tell me more about your background then. You said you went to art school. Can you get into more of those specifics?
So I decided in high school, I've got a high schooler right now, so we've been talking about this a lot. I decided towards the end of high school that I wanted to study fashion design, and did a lot of research on what was the best fashion school in the country. And it was Parsons School of Design in New York. So I decided that's where I'm going, or I'm not going to college.
Wow.
And that was a long journey to get there. In my interview with Parsons, they told me I would never get in. So I always like to tell people, like, don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
So then I came
Wow.
back and worked and worked and worked and got into Parsons. And
Wow.
then about after almost the full first year, when you have to declare your major and that's when you go into your specialty, decided I wasn't sure that fashion was quite right for me. And at the time, I had read an article about a fashion designer who turned all of her fashion creations into furniture. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Oh,
And then
wow.
the senior thesis show for the furniture department was going on. And so I went in and fell in love with furniture. So that was my major. And I finished the program at Parsons and then came back to Kansas City for a stint, got married, and then took my husband back to New York with me. And we were there for a while, 9/11, some other things, and decided we knew we didn't want to raise children there. So we decided to come back to the Midwest. And at the time, it was the early days of the internet and early days of the crossroads. I wasn't sure what I was going to do here as a furniture designer. So I decided to open a store. So I partnered with a local
Wow.
architect and we specialized in small North American furniture designers.
Wow, that's really cool. And then it was the store was located where?
It was
In
in
the
the heart of the
Crossroads.
Crossroads, which is
Okay.
our arts district here in Kansas City. So the very
Awesome.
early days when it was mostly galleries, there were maybe one or two restaurants in the area. And for
Yeah.
those who don't know, it's the complete opposite now. The galleries are still there, but a lot of them are getting pushed out. So it's mostly restaurants and entertainment now.
Wow, that's really cool that you've seen that area change so much over the years. So talk to me more about the process, or when you were bringing cookies in, what were you, was it an every week sort of thing? Were people stopping in just for the cookies?
So
What was
just on
that?
the first Fridays of the month, they
Okay.
would do a gallery walk, so people would walk around the whole neighborhood, and then it sort of became known for people just walking around to get free wine. So it was
Yeah.
this whole thing. Well, it was technically a private party, and so, but we were on the very north end of the neighborhood, so we were trying to get people to come our way.
Mm.
So we bribed them with cookies.
Smart.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. Did you start getting questions of, hey, can you make me some of these? Or when did that start
I don't
coming?
think, I can't remember very clearly when the first moment was, but the location that we were at, we were very close to the Kansas City Star, so we worked a lot with
Mm.
their homes editor on furniture things, and
Oh,
so
cool.
somehow through that they got a hold of the cookies and said, "Hey, we just want to put them on the front of the magazine."
My gosh.
And I'm not sure if even at that moment, we had any sort of serious business plan or anything for it. So
Yeah.
it just kind of snowballed from there.
At what point then were you like, okay, let's write this down. Let's make this a thing. Let's make this a business.
It started really slowly. I with the furniture company, we poured a lot of money into it, a lot of friends and family funds.
Yeah.
And that business model, while it did work in the end, it didn't work the way that we had planned, which was retail really didn't end up being a core part of our business. So with the second business, I didn't want to put any money into it. It had to totally grow organically.
Yeah.
And so it was word of mouth forever and ever. And we grew very, very slowly. So from 2007 to 2010, we just worked from my mother in law's house. And then in 2010, we moved into a small commercial space. And then in 2012, we did a Kickstarter campaign to build a commercial kitchen.
Oh,
So we were
cool.
one of the very first Kickstarter campaigns that happened.
That's cool.
And so we were able to build a tiny little kitchen. It was maybe 500 square feet, and we shared it with an architecture firm. So the architecture
Nice.
firm was one half of the space, and we were the other half of the space. And then
Sweet.
finally in 2020, we tripled in size and moved into our current location.
Oh
So
my
it was
gosh.
very, very slow and gradual.
Wow. But like with so much intention and amazing that you never had to take on any debt, then I assume either.
No, no, it
Wow.
was
Way to
great.
go. So in 2012, how many cookies were you making a week? And then what did that look like when you tripled?
I'm not sure where we were then, but I remember that very first Christmas that we were making cookies, we got an order for 30 dozen and we thought we were going to die. And now 30 dozen is a comfortable day for us.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so it just totally flexes, depending on the detail in the cookies, so sometimes 12 cookies could take you a whole day, and
Yeah.
sometimes 300 cookies take you an hour. So it just totally depends
Mm-hmm.
on how much detail there is in them.
Yeah, I took a cookie decorating class once and was blown away. I made 6 cookies and barely got them done during the class, and they were definitely not great, but the amount of like steadiness, and you can mess up one cookie so easily, or the cookie breaks. I had a cookie break and I was just so frustrated, which I did learn a trick. You can glue them back together with the frosting, but even still, oh, the time 30 doesn't sounds frightening to me.
It does.
How
It takes us about 4 months to train someone, and they always come in and
oh, I
start
bet.
and don't believe us. But I think people, when they're in it day to day, to get the steady hand and to get all of the detailing, it takes about 4 months.
Yeah. How have
So
you managed employees? So like how many did you start out with when you had your first commercial kitchen, and then today how many people do you employ?
when we first started, so my business partner at the time was the architect that had the
Mm,
architecture firm. So there were a
cool.
lot of architects that would do that during the day and then bake at night or decorate
Oh,
at night.
cool.
So we kind of shared back and forth. I
Fun.
think our very first Swoon employee was also a Hudson Home employee.
Sweet.
And then we were really blessed to get connected to this art community, where, for the most part, even still to this day, most of our swoonies are artists that have their own special medium, and that's their career and their day job, and then they're doing this as supplemental income.
Yeah. Oh,
So
cool.
yeah.
That's such an awesome opportunity for them to still earn some extra money while they're still pursuing their creative pursuits. So, and then is that just kind of that ball just kind of rolls based on if you have one employee that's kind of in the art world, they share that with their friends, I assume then, and that's just kind of how this the circle of life happens with Swoonies.
Yeah, there's a wonderful art collective here, and where people share studio space, and so it would be like one
Oh,
person would be there and say, well, we'd be looking for someone, and so it's
cool.
been really wonderful. We've had jewelry designers and fabric specialists and illustrators and mixed media artists, and everybody brings a different spin to it, which has been really great to see.
Yeah.
I really love it when they take a project and it's something that they just take and run with.
Yep. Then you can be a whole lot less hands-on about it, and they can just run, and I'm sure their creativity adds something completely different than maybe what it would otherwise. And like the frosting, what you're trying to decorate depends on what you make for frosting too, I assume. Like, do people just give you pictures of this is what I want, or do they say, I have a cowboy themed birthday party, just make whatever? Or what's that process that you're kind of
Yeah,
taking on?
both. So we've got
Okay.
clients that say, we saw these cookies and we really would like these, which
Yep.
we don't like to do. We never want to copy somebody else's work. So we always say, we'll do something similar, but it won't look exactly like this.
Cool.
And then, we've got clients that just trust us and say, this
Yeah.
is this is what we want, and have fun with it.
Sweet. I would prefer that myself because I'm not creative enough to be like there's probably 10 million better ways to do this, but this is what's in my head, so just take it and run. That's a lot less pressure on me. I'm like I don't want to make the decision on these cookies because I'm not going to make a creative enough one. So, what motivates you when days are hard or when you have like a really slow month? Because I'm sure you do. I'm sure there's been peaks and valleys in your business, as there is with any business. But what keeps you going when the days feel really hard?
I think the team, definitely, when you've got a great team and everybody enjoys working together and they feel that your place of business is a safe haven for them, that feels really great that you have this mini family. And
Yeah.
then, the clients that we've been with forever, we have one not-for-profit that we work with that's been there since day one, and we do cookies for them for their big gala every year, and it's
Cool.
always fun to see that theme and see them have grown from a tiny, tiny space to a huge facility now. And the same for us. And and again, those people that we've been with since they were dating, and now they have, 5, 6, 7 year olds, then we're doing
Yeah.
cookies for all their celebrations.
That's so cute. I love it. Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Did you grow up with entrepreneurs as parents, or has this been kind of a shock to you to say, like, now a lot of your career, or like pretty much all of it, you've started from the ground up? Is that something you anticipated
Yeah.
would be part of your story?
No, I don't think I ever, it wasn't ever an intention, more
Yeah.
just problem solving and trying to fill a need when you can't find the opportunity that you want, you make one.
Yeah.
But my mom was a physician and was in private practice and opened her own clinic. So technically,
Oh, cool.
she was a small business
Yep.
owner. My dad helped her out. He had a full-time job and he had the flexibility to take us to doctor's appointments and things, but he was
Sweet.
always there assisting the business. So I think it's always been in the family, but it was never
Yeah.
intentional.
It's in your blood.
Yeah.
And because it's in your blood, you are a natural problem solver and was like, I'm going to make an opportunity for myself, which I think is awesome. So what keeps you inspired today, in business specifically? Like, are you, as it relates to Swoon, like, what does it look like to be in the day-to-day details? And are you able to kind of step out, to let the rest of the team kind of take hold, or how much time do you actually have to spend, these days in Swoon?
Well, actually, I totally empowered my team because I took a separate full-time job. So
Okay.
I am also running the business side of an interior design firm. And so
Awesome.
I was looking for a new challenge because apparently I can't just do one thing. And my team really wanted more responsibility and more money. And so I said, I figured it out. I'm leaving. So it's been
Were
about
they
a year
freaked
and a
out?
half. I think so at first, but I think, again, I think it's great for them to have those creative decisions. And I really try and let them run with them. And so I'm still overseeing the financials and all of those
Yep.
things. And, making sure that supplies come and all of that. But now I'm also back in the design world, which has been great.
That's awesome. So how many people support Swoon today then?
So there's 6 of us right now at Swoon.
Okay. Sweet. That
So
is so great. What a great, it's awesome. You're able to just kind of let that business continue, because also I'm sure there's a big portion of the Kansas City community that would be devastated if you were like, no, I'm leaving. So that's really great that you can keep it running and you're providing so much value for 5 other folks here in Kansas City, which is great. So what are some of your goals for your business this year?
Well, really, it's right now. It's just surviving with everything that's going on in the world. It's been a
Yeah.
tough time. Eggs themselves,
Oh my gosh.
that's
Yeah.
been a challenge. And several years ago, there was some sort of natural disaster that wiped out vanilla. So
Oh,
vanilla is integral into our process, and
yeah.
so that was really difficult and got really expensive. And we've gone through these issues with eggs several times, and supply chain issues, and with all of the political things in the world going on, other food small businesses that I talk to are also really concerned. What's going to happen to cost of packaging? What's going to happen?
Mhm.
Can we get packaging?
Yep.
During COVID, that got really difficult as well. So it just feels like you're on a runaway train trying to keep it on the tracks.
Yeah. Keeps you up at night, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
there's so many unknowns of what's tomorrow going to look like, which is really hard. So, are there any decisions that you made early on that have impacted your business positively that you're like, I'm glad we did that when we did, or capitalized when we did?
I think we've gotten lucky several times. Again, having been there for the early days of Kickstarter and being able to build a
Yeah.
commercial kitchen through crowdsourcing, and then, as anytime I can learn, that's what I'm going for. So I was really lucky in the early days of the furniture business and the cookie business to have, through our small local bank, they taught a 6-week business class for people
Oh,
that
cool.
had businesses and knew a subject but really didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
And so having done that and then made a huge network of entrepreneurs through that, and then I did the Kaufman Fast Track program which was sort of a 12 week, I think, Kickstarter program for people who are launching businesses. And then most recently in 2022 did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, which was a 12-week intensive program. And so having all sorts of amazing tools at your fingertips from that. So just trying to always network and always learn and meet new people.
Yeah, you seem to have just this mentality of like, what else can I soak in to learn and like give me more, because like you don't stop, it sounds like, which I think makes you probably a great person to work for.
I just get bored very easily. So somebody has to keep me entertained.
Oh, a girl after my own heart. I love it. So how do you balance the demands of running a business with your personal life? How do you make sure you're still doing things with your husband and meeting friends outside of, you have a full-time job outside of Swoon. And if I remember right, your husband is an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
How do
So
you balance it?
he went out on his own about a year and a half ago. So it's, he's been incredibly supportive since the beginning. I always tease him that, he's running up a bill and, I owe him several millions of dollars worth of delivery charges.
Nice.
He built out our first furniture store. He, helped build out this most recent Swoon.
Cool.
So, and last summer my son came and worked with us in the business. And so there's a lot of family time that's spent in the business, but I think we try and do a good job of doing entertaining things on the side and giving each other a lot of grace. So since our son was small, my husband had to travel a lot for his job. So taking turns of holding down the fort, and so just trying to be really supportive. And both of our families are here, which has been really amazing. I don't think we could have done it without having both sets of parents here.
Yeah, doing it all in New York City might have been a lot harder with no help and a child. And yeah. I love that you pulled your son into the business too. What was his role over the summer?
He was a salesperson. So
cool.
He's not an artist, has no interest in decorating. He'll definitely be a taste tester.
Nice.
But we put him in the front of the shop, so he ran the shop last summer, which was great.
Oh, cool. What a great experience for him, and to just be in the details of the family business. It's really cool. Yeah. What's the most rewarding part of being an entrepreneur and business owner?
I think that every day is something different. And again, having the chance to meet people and all different experiences. I think I would not succeed in a job where I'm sitting at a desk all day, every day, and not being able to get outside. So just, it's always something new.
Yep. That's great. I love it. I get that we're going to the question that I love to ask all guests is, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
One thing that I wish I knew. I think while it's wonderful to plan far, far ahead, you also have to give yourself some grace to just take the next step forward and not get so overwhelmed. I think I remember when I started my furniture company, laying awake at night thinking like, what happens if it burns down? Just all these completely unrealistic thoughts of like, totally what happens irrational. If and I think at this point I joke, I have an entrepreneur friend and we'll literally text each other back and forth, left foot, right foot. Like you just have to, it's awesome. Just the next step forward, especially right now with all the unknowns in the world. I think you plan and you make, you can forecast and plan and do all of the things, but then also remember, it's just, you have to get through the next day.
Yeah. One day at a time. It's so critical. I literally have been up in the middle of the night. What if all my clients leave me?
Right.
It's just totally irrational, but it's part of it because you realize when you're not just getting a salary, you realize, oh, everything is dependent on me. And like at any time, anything can happen, but dwelling on that or constantly worrying about that does not serve you in any way. So that's great advice.
Yeah. Our space is currently for sale. And so everybody keeps asking me like, are you concerned? that you're going to lose your space. But several years
Mm.
ago when we were moving, we ended up having to move 4 times in 4 months. And I
Oh
was like,
my gosh.
if we survived that, we can survive this. So again,
Yeah.
having some perspective on it also helps.
Yeah.
So
In my opinion, it's kind of nice. They already have a renter, right? Like
yes.
that in my mind is, as a investor, hopefully they see that as easy money because it's already happening. So my first question would be, how's your business? What can we do to support you?
Yeah.
So how can people find you? How can they find Swoon? If they want to reach out, how might they connect with you?
We are on the web. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook, and our handle is just Swoon. So justswoon.com, and the same for Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Sophia. It was great to have you and to hear more about your story. It's such a fun one to tell.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I hope you found inspiration and insights to fuel your entrepreneurial journey. If you're looking for support in building or scaling your business profitably, visit my website or send me an email to learn more about how I help mission driven businesses become more profitable, proactive, and efficient. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps other entrepreneurs discover the show, and it would mean so much to me as well. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep going.